According to my Spotify Wrapped, I listened to over 50,000 minutes of metal and rock last year. Guys, that's over 35 days of screams, riffs, and melodies in my ear. Now, obviously, there are some albums that stood out, albums that I listened to much more than any other album. So in this video, I'm going to pick the best album in 5 categories: hard rock, alternative metal and rock, classic heavy metal, death metal, and black metal. There are some old legends here, but there are also debut albums from bands that I didn't know existed at the beginning of the year. So let's dive in. So I'm going to try to do this kind of the way of the Oscars. I'm going to have 3 nominees and then I'm going to pick 1 winner. So the nominations for Best Hard Rock Album are Deep Purple with Equals One. This was an album that I had very little expectation to, but it turned out to be great and I keep going back to it. Then my number 2 nominee is Sebastian Bach, Child Within the Man. That was a big surprise for me, and the guy, well, the child within the Bach can definitely still sing. And the third nominee is Keep Me Fed by The Warning. Now, this album doesn't waste a minute. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff on it, but I felt it suffered a little bit from the production. So the best hard rock album of 2024 is Deep Purple Equals One. This album is a really fun listen, and I feel that the band has somehow in the recent years comfortably gotten into that position that they're in. They're not trying something they're not capable of, they're bringing out the fun elements, and they have got like this we got nothing to prove attitude somehow that I think allows them to blossom in this old age. I personally think that this is their best album since Perfect Strangers, but I know that I'm probably alone with that opinion. Let's go from hard rock to heavier territories, death metal. My 3 nominees for the best death metal album of 2024 are Neckbreaker within the Viscera. This is a young Danish band, and this album is just bursting with energy and drive. It's really a fun listen from start to finish. Nominee number 2 is Cryptic Hatred, another young band, but from Finland, with their album Internal Torment. They take all the kind of old elements of groovy, cool death metal, but they make it theirs. Definitely a great album. And the third nominee is Gatecreeper with Dark Superstition. I felt that this album was a total throwback to the old days of like the Swedish death metal, like Entombed and bands like this. Great album. The best death metal album of 2024 is Within the Viscera by Neckbreaker. I had seen these kids in a club in Prague and I was wondering, how did they get in? They should have been ID'd. Turned out that they were actually one of the opening acts for Crypta when I went to see them. And when I saw that performance from Neckbreaker, I realized this band is going places. And then the debut album came out late 2024. I think it was even in December or something like that. And it has this fucking youthful energy. It's driven from first minute to the last minute. And it just has everything that you want from a good, groovy, heavy death metal album. And by the way, guys, I'm actually going to put links to all the albums in the first comment below. This next category, alternative rock metal, is kind of a mixed bag, alternative. It's all the stuff that I couldn't really fit in anywhere else, but I really like. So my nominees are the Smashing Pumpkins with the album Aghori, Mhori. This album, along with a great concert that I actually reviewed on my channel, kind of put Smashing Pumpkins back on my good books. I had kind of disliked them for years, but they got me back with this one. My second nominee is Jerry Cantrell, I Want Blood. This is everything that I want from Jerry Cantrell. This is Alice in Chains Jerry Cantrell. So that kind of says it all. Great album from start to finish. Now the third nominee is a band called Sabïre with an album called Jätt. This band I didn't even know existed at the beginning of the year. I had found them through one of my own episodes of new metal rock bands, and I kind of got hooked on this album. This is some sort of an acidy metal, sounds a little bit like Old Wasp or something like that. But yeah, it just hooked me somehow. The best alternative rock and metal album 2024 is Jätt by Sabïre. There is something about the soundscape and the atmosphere of this album that kind of makes me always go back to it, even though it's not without its flaws. It's a very long album and you kind of need to take it in pieces and, have something to clean the palette in between. But there are 4 or 5 killer songs on this album that I love to listen to. I know a lot of other people don't like this, but I fucking love this. And I didn't just listen to a lot of music on Spotify, I actually saw 113 bands live in 2024. So I made videos about the 10 best bands and the 7 worst bands, and there are links to those videos in the first comment below. Now we're getting into classic territory, classic heavy metal. Here you will know all the names, and I knew them all before the start of the year and before I was 10. And the first album that is nominated is Humanoid by Accept. This album is a grower. I didn't really like it at the beginning, but the more I listen to it, the more I like it. It doesn't spoil it that I actually saw them play a lot of those songs live as well, and they're great live. The second album is the Mandrake project by Bruce Dickinson. Now, I may be a little bit late to the party because this was actually the first solo album from him that I really got into, but better late than never. And the third nominee is Invincible Shield by Judas Priest. This was my most anticipated album, the album that I was most excited about at the beginning of the year. And it proves that this band is aging like fine wine. And the best classic heavy metal album of 2024 is the Mandrake project by Bruce Dickinson. I actually did a review on it back when it came out, and let's just check out what I said back then. So on to the summary. The pros of this album, it's a very diverse album. There's never really a dull moment here, I feel. It's great singing, as to be expected. I mean, Bruce is one of the best singers out there, for sure. And he shows that on this album. There is not like a red line through the album, as I kind of thought it would be based on the first two singles. It actually kind of takes you a little bit everywhere in terms of style and sound and different guitars and stuff like that. And he microdoses us with the track order somehow. He gets us from familiar to somewhere where I don't think we would be expecting to be listening to him. Let's get back into the darkness. We got the black metal here. And my nominees are Volcandra, The Way of Ancient is the album. This album has an interesting dynamic. It's a little bit brighter than a lot of the other stuff that I listen to, but I really like this. And the title song, it's just a killer song, one of my most played songs of 2024. My second nominee is the Urkatastrophe by Kanonenfieber. I don't know what Urkatastrophe means. If there's a German person here, please put that in the comments. But this album kind of sucks you in because it has this World War I theme. So you kind of feel that you have to listen to it from start to finish. And that's always good. But this band is going places. I've done videos about them. You definitely, if you don't know Kanonenfieber, you need to check them out. And the third and last nomination in this category is Mhori with their self-titled album Mhori. Now, Mhori is an Icelandic band from my home country that I didn't even know about. But this band does something very special. They take stuff that I usually don't like and they make it super cool, like mechanical, sterile stuff, and they kind of pump some life into it. The album came out very late last year, I think November or December or something like that, but it has taken the metal world by storm. Now this is the difficult one because it's hard for me here to pick between Volcandra and Mhori. Volcandra being something new, and that title song is one of my favorite songs, even months after it came out, and it just has something, there is some vibe to that album, Way of Ancients. And then Mhori with that self-titled album, there is something here, there is some sort of a hypnotic experience, but still keeps you alerted because you're thinking what's going to happen next. The vocals can be very different. It's like, it's the same guy, but he sings like 5 different people or something like that. So I have to pick Mhori. I know it's, you know, I'm Icelandic, I'm maybe a little bit biased, but it just, I think they did something, or they made me feel good about something I usually don't like. I think that's a big thing, you know, so they did something more for me than the other albums did. So I'm curious, what albums did you like in 2024? Please drop that in the comments. And if you want to stay up to date with everything metal and rock, then subscribe to the channel and like this video and all that jazz. And then check out this video here. These are the 10 best concerts of 2024. And there are some surprising inclusions here.